All right, so that is Etude number 1, Planting in a Storm. Let's go through how on earth to play that. In measures 1 through 4, we've got these harmonics. Okay? If you've never played harmonics before, they can look really mysterious and look really tricky, and they're really not that bad. Okay? All you have to do is break pretty much every single left-hand rule you've been taught so far. And we like breaking the rules, so let's do it. So to play a harmonic, take the pad of your finger. We're going to use finger 3 for this piece. Take the pad of the finger instead of the fingertip and lightly place it directly over the fret, not right behind it like we're used to. So again, the 2 rules we're breaking: finger pad instead of fingertip, and we're placing our finger right above the fret instead of right behind it. The 3rd rule we're going to break: don't squeeze. Normally we have to squeeze to get a note to come out. Instead, we're just going to lightly touch it here and then pluck. If you notice the note sounds a little bit muted, you're probably behind the fret or in front of the fret. Because harmonics are produced at certain mathematical ratios on the guitar, we have to be extremely precise with where we place our finger for them to work. So once you've got that, move your right hand down closer to the bridge to create a ponticello sound. This will just make the harmonic pop a bit more. When you're consistently getting a good tone out of these harmonics, a little bit of a trick you could do is move your finger off of the string immediately after you pluck. Don't remove it too early or you will just get a normal note. But if we remove it right after, the harmonic is going to ring longer and sound clearer, better tone, because we're no longer touching the string and stopping some of the vibration. So again, leaving it on and muted, letting our finger come off and ring. That can ring for days. So, when we're playing multiple harmonics at the same time, it gets a little bit trickier. We're going to use the flat of the middle of our finger here, and we have to make sure that we keep the finger parallel to the fret. What we're naturally going to want to do most likely is kind of come in this way. And you'll notice that the further up I go, the less harmonic I get. That's because we're angling away from the fret. Keeping it parallel to the fret, right above it, will keep all of those harmonics clear. So, recap: finger pad, parallel to the fret, directly above the fret, lightly touching, ponticello close to the bridge in the right hand, and bringing your finger off the string right after you pluck. That's how you're going to get a good sound. For the 5th fret harmonic, the last one in there, use your first finger so that you have less distance to travel here. And be aware the 5th fret is kind of a tricky harmonic. So if it doesn't sound as crisp as that 12th fret does, give yourself a little bit of slack. All right, let's get into the actual point of this etude, which is planting. So what is planting? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Planting is just the act of returning your right hand finger to the string. What I want you to try first is to just maybe set up your index finger on the 4th string. That's where it's going to be for this piece. And I want you to pluck that index finger and then return your finger to the string. You should notice kind of 2 things here. 1, when we plant, stops the string from ringing. 2, it makes our finger ready to pluck that same string again. So this is something that helps us prepare for the next note. Now, unfortunately, planting is not as simple as just pluck and then plant. Those are 2 steps doing one thing at a time. Unfortunately, planting often happens at the same time as we pluck a different finger. So what I mean by this, let's try plucking our ring finger, our A finger on string 2, and we'll make it so that when we start, only that finger is on the string. While we pluck that note, we are going to return or plant our thumb on the 6th string. So it'll look like this. So I'll do that again. I'm having just my ring finger set up. I'm going to pluck it, and when I do, I'm going to plant my thumb. Okay, now that is 2 simultaneous contrary motions happening at once. So if you struggle to do this, just remind yourself there's a reason, and the reason is guitar is hard. Okay, that's why not everybody can play it. So it's okay for this to be difficult. Now, what you can try and do here is alternate between these fingers, and you can do it between any of them, but plucking one, planting the next. When you pluck that thumb, maybe try and return the A finger. Alternating back and forth. You can do this with each of your fingers, or you can do it with all 3 of your fingers plucking and the thumb returning. And then when your thumb plucks, all 3 of your fingers planting. I call those boom chucks because they're that like country boom chuck thing. So boom chucks are a great thing to practice. All right, now, why do we do planting? Is it because I told you so? Well, no, unfortunately. Planting is honestly one of the most important tools for building speed as a guitarist. No one needs to practice plucking an individual note faster. We pluck and the note just sounds, it's there. Instead, in order to gain speed, we have to practice this simultaneous contrary motion of both plucking and planting at the same time to allow for the next pluck to happen quickly. All right, now how do we put this into the actual piece here? In measures 5 through 13, we are going to start with P, or our thumb, on the 6th string, I, our index on the 4th, M, our middle on the 3rd, and A, our ring finger on the 2nd string. So in that very first measure, we can go ahead and start with all of these down. The left hand is just going to simply have a 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 4th string to start off, and everything else gets to be a nice, easy, open string. What we're going to do here is we're going to pluck just our thumb, or P, and we're going to try and make sure that it comes up to this knuckle right here on our index finger. We're going to really want to watch this follow through. Then we're going to pluck just the index finger, and for the index, we're trying to make sure that we come to this kind of chunky thumb muscle here, back this way. So we've got thumb, then just our index, then just our middle, but when we pluck the ring finger, we're going to do what we just practiced a moment ago. We're going to plant our thumb at the same time. Once we've finished that, we're going to pluck our thumb by itself, and we should end with kind of our fist floating above the strings. Might look like you're ready to do a fist bump or something like that. Once we finish that, we're going to hold it for a beat, and then we're going to plant all of our fingers on the strings again. So I'll go through that again. P, I, M. When A plucks, we'll also plant P, P, hold it for a moment, and then plant. That planting there at the end, which is going to end up being on beat 4, is going to prepare us for the next measure, and it's also going to stop the strings. If you look at the 4th beat of this measure, there's a quarter rest. That quarter rest is going to be achieved by planting these fingers. All right, this right hand pattern is going to continue for measures 5 through 13. Practice it on open strings so that you don't even have to factor in the left hand. Once you feel like you've got it down and you feel confident with it, try adding in that left hand. But first you should be able to do this in rhythm. Etc. Now when we get to measure 14, we are going to add a couple new steps to this pattern. So I'll go ahead and put down this E so we can hear what the notes will sound like. We're going to start off the same, just plucking our thumb, then just plucking our index, just plucking our middle, plucking our ring finger, and then planting our thumb. And then here's our new step. This time when we pluck our thumb, we are going to plant I am an A all together. Remember kind of that boom chuck we talked about earlier? This is getting into that. Once all three of these fingers have planted, they're going to pluck simultaneously while the thumb goes to plant. Now, we've finished the measure and we're ready to go on to the next one with the pattern starting over. Only problem is, these fingers aren't ready because they just plucked. So at the beginning of the next measure, when we pluck our thumb, we have to plant all three of these fingers again. Then we can start over. So just like the other pattern, practice it with open strings first or with just this first chord shape if you want it to sound a little bit more pleasant before you start adding in all of the left hand movement. Bonus time. If you feel like you've got the planting down, the notes down, the rhythm down, start thinking about the left hand using guide fingers. So guide fingers are when we keep the finger on the string, but we move to a new fret. And while we move to that new fret, we don't actually squeeze the note. So if I pluck that string, it sounds muted. Okay? As opposed to a slide or glissando, where we keep that pressure down. Okay? Guide fingers help us to get from one location, one position to the next much more accurately without having to lift our fingers off and then find it again and maybe land in the wrong place. Let me demonstrate what I mean. I'm going to start from measure 5. First measure, we just got this. Second measure, we add our first finger. Third measure, when we slide up to this chord here, we don't need to lift our fingers off and put them back down again. We can just move them, still touching the string. So it'll look like this. And then when we return, we don't need our first finger to guide anymore, but our second finger can still guide. If you start doing this and you notice, wow, it sounds like a record scratch on my 4th string, don't worry about it until you've checked off the box for everything else. Once you have checked off the box for everything else, though, here's a little trick. Instead of keeping the finger exactly on the string, and your callus making this really nice DJ record scratch, lift the finger ever so slightly, but not by much, so that when we put it back down, we're still in a good location. Once you've got that covered, start adding in the musicality. We've got dynamics written on this. We've got color changes, ponticello, normal, tosto. We also have ritardandos in there. Everything that I wrote in here is just how I like to play it. It doesn't mean that it's how you have to play it. So you can feel free to go through those dynamics and everything like that, those color changes, cross them out, and make it your own interpretation. That's part of the beauty of music. As a final note here, remember to practice at a slow tempo, but with lightning fast planting. Planting is all about gaining speed in the long run, but you have to practice it really slowly, like this first. If you find that you're getting a little frustrated practicing planting, pro tip, mute your strings, go put something on the TV that you've watched a million times before, not a murder mystery where you're on the edge of your seat, and just practice some boom chucks. They're boring, but they're really good for you. They're like the vegetables of music, and we kind of got to eat those vegetables in order to get better. But that doesn't mean that we can't do it while watching something on TV. Happy practicing, and I hope you enjoy.